I think what I have is that everybody in the room really fucking matters to me.
Hello, my darlings. This is Micah Riot, and you are about to hear part 2 of my delightful conversation with James-Olivia Chu Hillman. We talked for 3 hours, but only 2 hours of that conversation is going to be released. So enjoy the second half, and see you on the other side. So you said something along the lines of like, I hate the gym, but I'm a personal trainer. And now I want to know more about that.
Okay, so when I decided to stop doing sex work, I was like, and I'd been working in an office. I'd been working as multiple different jobs, but I ended up, the first time I left Nordstrom, I was a buyer, and I'd been doing this very cerebral job, sitting at a desk for like 10 hours a day. And then I started doing sex work, which was very, very embodied work. And I don't know if it has, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's necessarily embodied work, but for me, it was very embodied. Like I enjoyed having a body and using my body in that way and like relating to other bodies. But I decided to stop doing that. And I was like, well, what can I do where I don't have to sit in an office again and I can still tell people what to do? I was like, ooh, I could be a personal trainer, except I've never worked out a day in my life. What the fuck am I going to do? And so I went, I went to personal training school, and I went to this certification program that was, many more hours than most programs that I was able to find at the time. And it was in person, and it was in a gym, and it was like an actual school, like a little personal training school. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to work out. I'm going to learn how to like move my body on purpose in different ways and strengthen it and like stretch it and do things with it. And I ended up working at Gold's Gym for, I think, maybe 15 minutes as a trainer. I was like, this is hell. The gym is hell. This is my own personal hell. And I found another trainer whose entire business was going to people's houses and working them out at home. And I was like, I will apprentice with you. You are my new teacher. Like, point me to the house that I need to go to next to work out your next client. Like, I will work for you. And so I ended up building a little business of my own, doing that exact thing. I was like, there are people like me who hate the gym as much as I do and also need to move their bodies and are willing to have somebody come and hang out with them at home and move together. And so that's what I did. I would just walk all over Seattle, be like, 11 a.m. It's time to do some shit in your basement. Like, let's do some stuff. And it was really, really fun for me to have, most of my clients were over 50, over 60. It was mostly like, people who had surgeries, people with Parkinson's, people who just happened to be like 85 years old, people recovering from, injury. And I got to work with bodies, like, but in a functional way. The thing that I hated most about the fitness industry was its focus on appearance, either appearance or performance. And I was like, I'm not interested in either of these things. I'm really interested in quality of life. Like, I just wanted people to have a really great quality of life. So I was like, all right, you fly a lot and you can't get your suitcase up over your head. Why don't we work on things where you lift things over your head and twist at the same time? Like, these are all very functional things that we can do together to make your life more fun. Like, you want to lift your grandkids? Okay, let's lift things that are kind of the size and weight of your grandkids. Like, let's
Like,
play with real life stuff. Yeah.
I am interested in where the part where you said, I wanted to not be in an office, but keep telling people what to do.
Mhm. As it turns out, I didn't really tell people what to do. That was not part of either job, either in my sex work or in my personal training work. But there was a certain level of, like, okay, you're trusting me to have some authority here and be responsible for your, not for your experience, but be responsible for the container that I create for you to have the experience that you want to have.
I once upon a time had hired a personal trainer.
Mm-hmm.
She was like a bodybuilding person. It was about more like macros and
Mm-hmm.
things, trying to build muscle. And so we worked together for a couple months, and at some point, maybe it was about a month or something, it was going well. And then at some point, and she was literally telling me how many grams of protein to eat and when to eat it and when to work out and how much more I had to do. Like, she goes giving me these programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
One time, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks later, she goes, let's try not having any drinks. And I was like, but like I only have like 1 or 2 a week. And she was like, yeah, but like this is limiting you. So like, let's try that. And I was like, fine. I mean, I'm paying you to basically top me into this whole thing. So I might as well just listen to you. And she got so offended. She was like, how dare you talk to me this way? Right? Like, she just was like, this is so inappropriate. And I like, don't text me again, basically. And I wrote her like a long apology email being like, I'm so sorry, I crossed your boundaries, like it was a joke. I just was like, I'm sorry, like that won't happen again. Like, I wrote her like a very sincere long apology. She just never spoke to me again.
Oh, I'm so sorry that happened. I mean, I can see somebody, um yeah, people take offense to whatever they take offense to. But I think that's fucking hilarious.
I thought it was hilarious too, because you are literally telling me exactly how to live my life, exactly what to eat, drink, sleep, exercise, like down to, everything, to the last glass of water, to like a snack. Like, you're telling me you're, and I understand that I'm paying you to do that. It's an exchange of services for results. But like, I thought it was funny because I was like, yeah, when you're topping me, like you're,
I
you
mean,
know,
that is basically the toppiest thing you can do, is dictate somebody's food
oh,
intake. And
yeah, right. And she felt sexualized by that comment, which, I was kind of like, oh, she's queer. She probably has some. This was the part, where I was like, if someone has kink background, they'd probably think it's funny. If they have some understanding of power play, they would think it's funny. But if someone just like feels like that's a very sexualizing thing to say or an experience to have, then they would get so turned off. And I didn't realize that she had such hard boundaries about that kind of joking. And I lost, she lost, we both lost, and she wasn't able to get past what
yeah.
I said, even though I apologized very profusely. And it's fine. Like, I feel fine about it. But I felt so bad for so long, about it. And just being like, right, I say shit sometimes, and like there are people that I can't just say shit to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I say a lot of shit too. Like, our last regard, I guess it was a week and a half ago, where without context, I'm like, I'm going to take a walk for Thanksgiving and celebrate a massacre. And I'm like, okay, that was contextless and there's more to it than that. And I was like, and then I'm like, okay, bye. Everybody have a great holiday. I'm like, fuck. I wonder how many emails I'm going to get going, what the hell are you talking about? That
You
you're going to
know,
go.
you didn't get any emails, did you?
I got 0 emails. I got
Yeah.
0. Just,
People like, they already have an opinion and a way that they regard you without like actually listening to every single thing you'll say. Like, they're not gonna take it as if somebody else had said that, right, on the internet.
right. So yeah, I was not actually like out to celebrate a massacre, but there is a site close to where I live in Chicago that it was a site of Potawatomi resistance. It was a settler fort that is now no longer a fort. It's whatever storefront it is, but it was a site of a battle where indigenous resistance prevailed, and I'm really excited about it, and I love going there every Thanksgiving. So
Sounds wonderful.
yeah.
So, tell me about your tattoos. It's a tattoo podcast, actually.
Oh, are we on a tattoo podcast?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's so funny. Okay, my tattoos. My very first tattoo I did to myself. How old was I? Was I like 14? And I was just desperately wanting ink on my body. I was like, you can just do this to yourself. Like you can just make marks on your skin. And so I was like, I'll just make this tiny little flower on the bottom of my ankle. No one will ever see it.
And
And I'm guessing nobody really ever sees it. I had it when I moved to New York. I moved to New York when I was 20, and I had it covered up with another tiny little flower, um, by a very kind person. I don't remember his name. He was like, yeah, I could totally cover that up for you and put another little, like, now it's just a little plum blossom. And it's real cute, whatever. Like, and nobody ever sees it. Um, let's see. I have some Chinese script on one of my legs. And oh, it's so funny. Like, we are now entering the realm of how private do I want to be? There's something oddly, for me, tattoos are so public, like people can see them. And also, they have such deep personal meaning that it's kind of like talking about a song you wrote or talking about like a creation, that everything that goes into it, the reductionist nature of, here, let me just tell you about this thing, feels so inadequate. Um,
I guess you don't have to tell me. I guess the question is less like, what do you have and why do you have it? And more like, how has getting tattoos, having them, how has that been impactful in your relationship with your body?
um, I think many many experiences that I've had, I don't have it has all been this. Um, Given that my first one was given to myself, um, it feels like a sort of foundational, I get to choose things. Like I get to do things to my own body, with my own body, and it's mine. Like I think that set a a foundation of having this relationship of my body is totally mine and I get to do what I want with it. And that changed a bit when I was in a relationship with someone, and I have one of my tattoos was a bit coercive. And so I don't have a great experience with that tattoo or that person. Like it was not overall a great experience. And there was a lot of beauty and, learning, and I wouldn't give it back, nor would I give the tattoo back. But there's just so much in it. Like there's for me that, being the age that I am and having my tattoos spread out over decades, and it's been a long time since I've had one. Um, it's probably it's been like 20. I think it's been 20 years since my last tattoo. I'm due. I'm due for more story. Um, I'm thinking. Am I thinking? No, I might just be feeling. I'm not even thinking right now. I'm just feeling shit. I'm a little emotional about it. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Yeah, I'm just kind of feeling
What are you feeling?
mm, that there's so much story. Like tattoos for me carry so much memory, and to sit here and think about them is to have a really deep relationship with the past in places that I don't normally sit and think about. So, yeah. I think when I say I'm due for more, it's that I want to update the stories.
Mm.
Like the stories that my skin currently carries don't feel representative of who I am right now.
How do
Like
you
they
want
got me
to,
here. What's that?
how do you want to update the stories?
Um, some of it's purely some, not all of it, but some of it's purely aesthetic. It's like what what I know of beauty now, the inclusive nature of my understanding of beauty now, I think is like, oh, I want I want something more cohesive. Like right now I have, this piece from this year, this piece from this time in my life, this piece, and they're spread out. But when I think about tattoos now, I think, oh, there's a whole life story on somebody's body. And it didn't all happen, for the most part, for most people I know, it doesn't all happen all at once. But how do you take all of these disparate events and stories and weave together life,
You have
like a
to duplicate
cohesive?
a person.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that what you do?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I know you follow me, but do you have you had a look at what I do?
I have not. I mean, I have glanced, but I don't know the story of what you do. Like I have, I've seen pictures, but I don't know how you work. Are you willing to talk about it right now?
Sure. I'm distracted
By what?
by the beauty of your crying. You're beautiful. How I Yeah, I don't feel like what I do is tattoos in the traditional sense of just putting tattoos on people's bodies. I could never be like the old school tattoo parlor where somebody walks in and they go, I want that spider with the web on your wall. Not something I could ever do. I mean, each piece I do is completely unique and different to the person wearing it. And oftentimes there are things, like a bear face or some leaves or fish or writing or whatever, but oftentimes they're not things. They're abstract pieces meant to hug the body, show lines on the body, like accentuate a shape,
Hmm.
beautify a shape, decorate a skin, a body part. um a lot of them are made up, like sometimes they're made up. I call them creature flowers, so it might be like a floral thing, but it actually looks like a creature.
Uh-huh.
And is not a flower that exists, but it's just kind of like a made up thing that just sprawls enough to like hug and accentuate a hip or something. And my favorite is when people come to me and they just go, do whatever you want. I used to be so scared of it, like early on, people would ask me for that, and I would be like, but no, what if you don't like it? Like, you have to tell me more, like, okay, I'll do stuff I want, but like, tell me the parameters, right? And now, because I have a menu of sorts, right? And people who come to me usually see what I do and they can trust what I do. Like, I trust their trust in me.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm able to to do more of what I just would want, what I would naturally would see in them, without feeling like they won't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suspect that people who see your work, like your body of work, whatever you do is going to be yours. And they already know. It's like, oh, if this is a Micah piece, I'm already going to like it because I love this work.
Yeah. Oftentimes people say that immediately. And it's very comforting to me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
That's
long? Oh, keep going.
how long have I been tattooing? 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you start?
I apprenticed at a shop in San Francisco. It's kind of like the shop in San Francisco was queer. It was an all queer, all women, all non-binary folks
Mhm.
shop. I I wanted to tattoo since I was a teenager, since I was about 13. I came to the States when I was 12, and I was in LA and kind of Hollywood area, Melrose area, and I would see tattoo people and punks and see tattoo shops and just be like, oh my God, like I love the idea of drawing on the body for a living, you know? Um, and then all through college, I was like, oh, I could try this. Maybe I'll just do this for a while. I'll go to grad school. I'll do something else later, but I can do this for a little while. And then when I started doing it, I was like, first of all, I want to go all the way to the end with it. There's no, I mean, now 15 years into it, I still feel like a beginner, you know? So there's no endpoint, and there's nothing else I want to do. I mean, that's not entirely true. There are things I would do parallel. Like if I had more lives, what else would I do? Have a list of things I would do.
What would
But
you do?
I'd have a flower shop. I'd have a matchmaking agency.
Amazing. I love this.
I love matchmaking. I can include this stuff into, you know, my business in some ways.
Uh-huh.
I would have I mean, this is not a job, but I definitely have had the idea of like if I had the time, the energy, the money, I would have a bigger house where I could have teenagers come and live with me, like adopt queer
Mhm.
teenagers, you know, who like can't stay with their parents.
Yeah.
Um, Stuff like that, you know, but that's not a job. It would just be like, I don't have the time, energy, or money to do that, but I would love to have the resources.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, tattooing is the best thing ever. And it's also hard. And also I feel like I'm like cheating life, like in some way, like cheating capitalism, right? Because I get to do something I love so much, and get to do it the way I want to do it because I work for myself, and I've
Uh-huh.
worked for myself for um, 9 years. That was 6 years I worked for other people, and then I worked for myself now for 9 years.
Yeah.
Um, and I have an apprentice. I mentioned her in a guard class, and oh, she's just the fucking gifts from the gods. You know, she's so amazing, and I'm so happy I waited this long for somebody. Right? She's just right. She's right in all the ways. Like she's a flawed human. But she's so right for me and for yeah for me, and I'm right for her. I think so. It seems like it's the truth for her too.
So this is your first apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you know, like, it's time? It's now time for me to take on an apprentice. Was it her specifically? You're like, oh, I'm just going to wait until the right person arrives, and then she arrived.
Yes, and I definitely was like, because people have asked, you know, over the course of these years, people would email me and say, I'm looking for an apprenticeship. Can I show you my portfolio, whatever? And it just never felt right until her. So yeah, I knew that I would wait for the right person. I wasn't gonna putting out ads on the paper, you know, like that. Definitely, I was like, she'll come. That person will come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it would be a she. I figured it would be somebody who would kind of remind me of me, which she does in some ways, like at that age, you know. Um, Primarily, it's the relational piece. She relates to people the way that I relate to people. I don't care what her art looks like, and I'm happy to like usher her art into a format that will be appropriate for tattoos.
Okay.
But her work looks completely different from mine, and it doesn't matter to me. The art is kind of besides the point. It's like the third important thing in the tattoo artist client relationship. But this is interesting. I'll answer your question too about the mentorship piece, but I had the same question for you, so you'll be next. But I went on an ayahuasca retreat in the fall. It's been exactly 2 years, in November of 21. And one of the things she told me, and by she I mean the goddess, was that I was ready to enter my queer uncle era, essentially. So I have a few like young women in their 20s around me. Like, one is a client who I've tattooed for a couple years, and she went through a bad breakup, and she kind of, she would talk to me through it all. So I was mentoring her through her breakup, and we developed a really sweet connection. And when Aya told me that, she said, this person, Ale, her name is Ale, she said, tell Ale that you are her like uncle now, like her like mentor or her chosen fairy goddess uncle. Like, what is it, fairy godfather, but like uncle, And so when I came home from that retreat, I took her out to dinner and I said, hey, I got this message from the goddess. Like, I want to just officially present myself to you as an adult that cares for you, that, wants the best for you and is here for you for whatever you need. And she said, this is great. I love this. Like, she loved it. It was so perfect because she was such a perfect first person to like create that relationship with. And I wasn't ready for that until ayahuasca told me I was ready. Like, I could not play it that big. I was like, but I am still like young and I don't know anything. And like, I can't mentor people. Like, I can't be someone's like, adult to rely on. Like, I'm not an adult myself. Like, that's how I felt. And then when she told me that I was ready, I was like, okay. So yeah, Ale and Sailor is a bigger, a close, right? Like, where there's more involvement that we have with each other, more engagement. And she, so early on in our knowing each other, she would open up to me in ways that felt very healthy, but also very trusting.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like felt this overwhelming sense of like care and love for her that I was like, she needs care. Like, she didn't get enough care from her family of origin. And I just like, with that, it wasn't even mental. It was like all heart, it was just like, I love her. I care for her. Like, it was so clear. So, there's like nothing she could ask me to do that I wouldn't do. And it's like I'm ready to parent in a way that I was never before,
Huh?
like, I don't clearly have the full responsibility of a parent in any of these relationships. It's just that the amount of parenting I'm available for, I feel finally ready for.
Yeah.
And I have, I have a stepchild who's 13 who I helped raise from 4 to 9.
Oh, wow.
My ex, somebody I was married to. So the child was with us half time.
Uh-huh.
I did the like, get up early, take them to school, pick them up from school, go to the school events, clean up puke in the car on a road trip. Like, I did that shit too.
You parented.
I parented. And it was a short time. I get to see him still, but now it's a couple hours every couple months.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I definitely struggled. Like, it was hard for me to step into that role then with him. And he was an actual child. Like, Sailor's 23. She's an adult. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a different level of actual dependence and also developmentally. Like, there's a lot of reparenting that can happen to develop an adult human, but the actual parenting of a child human, it's a fuck ton of responsibility. Like,
and the experience of dealing with somebody whose brain is not fully developed, right? Like, there was a time period when he would just grab me, like he would grab my body parts, and I like my reaction was to hit him. Like I didn't hit him, but that was
But
like
that
a
was
very visceral reaction when somebody is just grabbing me out of nowhere.
mhm.
Um, when he was like 5, 6 years old, and that was really hard for me.
Yeah,
You know, I just was like, wow, I'm raising a little boy, and he is grabbing my body, and it's not okay. But also, I can't react the way I would react with an adult.
right. Yeah, when I lived in Seattle, I had an experience with a human on the street. I was carrying a bag of oranges or something, like a little plastic grocery bag that had fruit, of course. Like it had some fruit and some snacks in it. And I was walking by a bus stop and it was crowded and I was trying to get like through the crowd into a building, and a you know young-ish masculine presenting but very like kind of not intimidating in size, like this sort of timid person, just as I was walking through this crowd, reached into my grocery bag, like stuck his hand into my grocery bag. And my reaction was horrible and also not inappropriate. Like here's a masculine presenting person just like grabbing and reaching into my actual grocery bag. And I was like, first of all, how dare you? I was like, how, you know better. Like you are not allowed to. I talked to him like he was a kindergartner. I was like absolutely not. You know better. You cannot go around just putting your hands in people's bags. And I'm like kind of yelling at him, and he's looking at me, and his whole demeanor was one of just shock and like, oh my god, he looked like I was gonna kill him. And I was like, oh, you're not well, and you had no idea what you were doing. And I'm thinking all these thoughts in rapid succession, like, I'm yelling at you, you are unwell, you have no idea why I'm yelling at you, and now I'm just a stranger on the street like verbally assaulting you
Mm.
for something that you. And I'm guessing that like children, when you have these experiences where you have a response to a child doing a thing that if a stranger on the street did it, you would probably verbally assault them the way that I was kind of assaulting this stranger. And you can't do that with a developing child, nor would I want to do this. Like if I had it to do over again with a stranger on the street, I would have had a very different response too.
Mm.
So I don't know why I felt the urge to just overshare that story. Where are you at?
Yeah, no, you're right. Like people have their own realities, right? And then we have our realities, and like they collide, and sometimes they don't. It doesn't feel good. It's not the right kind of collision.
Yeah.
And that definitely has happened. I mean, with Gabriel, my stepchild, with my dog, sometimes it's happened like she gets really anxious, really whiny, like, and my reaction can be so like I'm just so over everything, and I'm just like, please shut the fuck up, dog. And it's not fair, you know.
When
She's
what she needs is like cuddling and all kinds of safety and sweetness.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so my question for you in that was like, was there a time when you felt ready to be a mentor, when you went from being a mentee to being a mentor that you could name?
I don't know if I'm there yet.
I mean, you get paid to mentor groups of people,
I don't know that what I'm doing is mentoring.
holding space.
Um, sometimes I hold space.
Y-
Um,
You hold
go
a container like no, but like your container's bulletproof. Like that's, I mean, that is why I think it keeps being able to be possible, right? Like there's the wisdom and knowledge that you have, but the holding of the container is what people need when they come into that room. If it's Zoom or in person, I'm assuming it's very similar. They want to be
um,
held in that container.
yeah, okay, bulletproof. What do you mean by that? Because I don't have that experience. I'm like, there are bullets all over the place right now.
What do I mean by that? Well, it feels really energetic to me. So it's not necessarily something you can fully describe in words, but being in someone's container is where I can feel your energy. When I'm in there, I feel your energy. Your energy surrounds the room, even if it's on Zoom. It holds everybody within, and there's no leaks. Like, you're very present, you're fully there, even if you're tired or things are going on. Like, not everybody can do that. Very few people can do that, actually, and those are the people who end up being like community leaders, teachers, mentors, cult leaders, perhaps.
I hope not. I hope never. Um, I think what I have is that everybody in the room really fucking matters to me. Like, I don't have a hierarchy. I don't have that I matter more than anybody else in the room. Um, and I also have that I matter just as much as everybody in the room. But I think so. I started volunteering to like facilitate divorce support groups when I was living in Tucson. And that was kind of my first, actually, no, when I was working in IT and in retail, a lot of what I would do was facilitate meetings. Like, I was a business analyst, but my work very often was facilitating the meetings that people were having with each other, because I could see that nobody was listening to one another. Or if they were trying to listen, they couldn't understand each other very well. And so a lot of times I was just like, okay, I'm listening and I'm translating. Okay, I'm listening to you and I'm translating. And I was paying a lot of attention to the people in the room all the time. I didn't care very much about the business, and I don't care very much about technology, but I cared very much about the people in the room. And so that sort of translated for me to facilitating support groups. And then that kind of translated to, hey, I have things to teach about relationship, or I have things to teach about disobedience, or whatever it is that I'm wanting to facilitate people's learning around. But I think it wasn't until it's fairly recent, like in the last 2 or 3 years, I had an experience in one of my groups where one of my then students, now friend and peer, um, I would say she hated herself a lot, and was very annoying with it. And okay, if you're listening to this now, you know who you are. You know how much I love you. We've talked about this. Like, but was seemingly intent on enrolling everyone in her hatred of herself, like convincing us of how hateable she was. And she's very persuasive. It's like, wow, she's one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I'm like, God damn, you're really doing a swell job of like trying to get people to hate you as much as you hate yourself. And I was really like bent out of shape about it. And I was on a walk with Ben. I was living in New York at the time. We were living together and we were walking our dog. And I was like, yeah, this person's really, I think she's really trying to get me to hate her. And I've got a decision to make. And it was being in a group with her specifically, but also all the people that I'd been with up until her. But she brought it right to the forefront, and I had to confront it. I was like, I'm not willing to teach or facilitate or work with anybody that I haven't already decided to love. Like, if I don't love someone, if I can't decide to love them unconditionally, I have no business working with them. And so I decided to love her. I'm like, I don't give a fuck what she does. I don't care what she says. I don't care how convincing she thinks she is. I'm just going to love her despite what she wants. I'm just going to love her, and I'm just going to love everybody that I work with. And if I don't have that, then I need to stop doing this work, because this work isn't about teaching anybody anything. It's about my ability to love them. And so if there was a moment, I think it was that moment.
I've heard you say this before, what you just said. I'm so glad you just said it now for the podcast. And I immediately was like, this is how I feel about my clients.
Yeah.
And every time, I love them all. But sometimes I'll meet a person, I'll just be like this immediate love, like it didn't even have to develop. It's just like this
Mhm.
really fast, like within an hour, I'll just be like, oh my God, I fucking love you. And I'm like, I do this thing where I'm like, another person, like there's so many and like they keep coming and I keep loving them. It's like, how can I keep loving all of them? Like, what if, and then I feel kind of like I have to keep tabs on all of them and I have to like, just spread my wings over all of them. And sometimes I get like a little overwhelmed, like, but what if I can't keep tabs on all of them because there's now hundreds of them or thousands,
Yeah.
you know? But maybe I don't have to do that. I can just love. Like I don't have to do anything besides just the loving.
Yeah.
But again, sometimes I feel guilty that I don't have all of their, like I don't text them all on a monthly basis or something like
I
every.
have that too. Like I have that with people who have come through and I'm like, I don't know if you know that I think about you all the time. Like every person that's come through, there's nobody that I don't think about
Mm,
and have some the way that I define love is in the sort of bell hooks um, definition of being committed to their thriving, and so that may or may not involve my active participation all the time. For most people, it doesn't involve my active participation once they're out of my realm and my like kind of sphere of influence. But part of my commitment to their thriving is that I have a commitment to everyone's thriving. And so, like, okay, if I'm working for a world where everyone can thrive, you're included in that. And that's how my love will manifest for the people that I no longer get to see and talk to all the time. So,
did you, did you feel well loved growing up?
um, at times, yeah, I think I definitely had people who loved me very well as a child. Um, I feel like my parents loved me deeply. I wouldn't say they loved me well all the time. Um, and that's a judgment. Like that's a like, did they love me in a way that I could understand and in a way that felt like love? Not really.
Is it judgment? Is it discernment?
Um, well, loving well, like I think that's a judgment. It's like, um, it got me here. Like the love that I received got me here. And as a child, like my grandparents adored me. So like I was very well loved by my grandparents. And I think I had a neighbor who was also my Sunday school teacher. Like I was loved by adults around me.
You're
And also I was a what's that?
sorry, you're an only child?
I am. I am the only child on both sides of my family. Or am I? No, I have a cousin who has one child.
Mhm.
So that's the next generation. But in my generation, I am the only child. So my mom was one of five and my dad was one of seven. And I have many cousins and I grew up with most of them. So, um, but yeah, I think the answer is yes, I was well loved and inconsistently loved and also loved poorly. Like there was a whole spectrum of kinds of love.
Yeah, I'm so curious how you've come into all the love now. Like, I guess we need to end this soon. I don't even know how to end it. Like, there's no period in this sentence. It's like a run-on sentence. I'm like, this is not even like a box to open in this moment. But I'm stoked that you exist.
Likewise. I'm super emotional. I feel like you have like cracked open some doors. Maybe this is what invasive questions are like. That to me, it's not an invasion like an invasive species or a colonization or war. It's more like a hey, there's a crack and the light is getting in and a tendril of a plant is like growing through and it's yeah. And I'm perimenopausal, so I just fucking cry all the time over everything. So um, but
My
yeah, I'm feeling emotional.
my partner is 49, so I know. I've been witness first, first row with next to the roller coaster. You know, there's a book called What Fresh Hell Is This?
I've heard of this book. Do you recommend it? Does your partner recommend it?
She read it. I have not read it. She liked it. Like, I think she got something out of it. It's funny. The person who wrote it is just like a lovely non-binary identified person.
Okay.
So yes, and also like I haven't read it myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of enjoying discovering the fresh hell every day. Like nobody ever tells you about this. Oh, I guess somebody would if I would read a book, but like just upsetting myself with the newness of it every day is pretty fun.
Well, it just sounds like you just probably need some more community around it if you feel like no one, I mean, I think Liz feels like no one's talking about it either enough, even though she is reading. She's a total reader. She loves articles. It's a joke, you know, that if she's all worked up, I'll be like, honey, why didn't you go read an article? Like calms her down reading articles.
Yeah, that's funny.
Atlantic, you know, such things. But yeah, y'all need community, I think is the thing.
Thank you for sharing her information. I just started following her last week also. So.
Cool. She's a little bit oblivious. I was like, did James-Olivia sign up for your class? And she was like, no. I was like, okay. So she knows that I'm excited about also each other connecting to each other's work and all that. And she follows you and like loves your posts and stuff. So I'm like, what? James-Olivia followed you, didn't tell me about that? That was like an event. Like, so I'm going to give her shit later about it.
Yeah, I was in a workshop the day of her class, so I didn't sign up. And I'm like, I do need community and support around this. So maybe I become a client of some sort. I don't know. Like I need some sort of support.
She does do like health coaching. She hates the term coaching, but she knows so much. So she started doing like a more comprehensive, because she's a physical therapist, but she specifically in the pelvic floor region, but she started doing this more comprehensive work. And during the pandemic, she took this like $6,000 class that she was super pissed about because it was super white centered, like very, you know, just gender essentialist, like just not our politics. And she was so frustrated with it, but now she can like be a health coach too. Yeah.
Sweet.
Here we are ending on a bit of a random note, talking about my partner, Liz. If you are interested in menopause, going through community, you can totally reach out to Liz. She is lizwilliamspt@gmail.com. She's also on Instagram as Liz Williams PT as well. And of course, James-Olivia Chu Hillman. If you have not yet gone to see their work, it's on Instagram. It is the most gut-punching, soul-uplifting series of questions of self-inquiry. It is what hooked my attention from the very beginning, from a bunch of years ago when I first encountered them in the online space. Go follow them. They are on Instagram at inquisitive_human, and their website is inquisitivehuman.com. And of course, please subscribe if you listen. Follow, subscribe the podcast. It is 1 year anniversary of it in this month, in December of 2023. I started it exactly a year ago, and I'm very happy, very proud of this accomplishment. It's been an amazing journey. I'm so glad that I did it. Shout out to Shantae Cofield. Thank you. Thank you, Maestro, for encouraging and supporting this passion project. Please do review, like, all the things. It really helps. I really appreciate all of you. Until next time.